Boom, welcome in. We are going live right now. We got a bonus little clip, little episode right now. We're going to kind of go into, we're going to get fans in here before everyone joins up. For those who are in here right now, we're going to run a little quick video. I'm going to post some links out to everybody, and then Andrew and I are going to kind of cover it now. Matt was on earlier, as you saw, but we got people joining in right now. So I'm going to tweet out the links, post about it everywhere, and we'll run the show in about 40 seconds. We'll see you guys.
2 to play in the third. Fun game here in the Twin Cities. Look at the moves by Edwards. Swashbuckling Anthony Edwards skies. Are you kidding me, Edwards? Edwards, yes sir! He's here, ladies and gentlemen.
There's some ball players out there, bitch. You got some ball players, bitchy.
Yes, sir. There it is again. We got some ball players. The Detroit Bad Boys, they tried to come in, Andrew. They tried to come in. Malik Beasley thought he was something special, something nice, coming in here having that game, talking all that smack in the first half, doing his thing, doing his little dance after he hits the three, talking crap in Anthony Edwards' ear to his face in the beginning of the game. But guess what? The tides have turned. Anthony Edwards turned it around. Julius Randle and Ant really just took it in, took the soul out of the Pistons team. I thought Rudy Gobert tonight was fantastic. We're going to get into that. We got everybody joining in. This is the live show. And tonight, for the first time, for those watching, if you do want to come in and participate on the show tonight, you're going to have the option. We're going to bring on a few different people. All you have to do is email wolvesbig3@gmail.com. And if you send us an email there, we will try our best to get people in. You will come on. You'll be on video. You'll be on the live with us. You can ask questions. You can share your thoughts on the game tonight. Get your boxing gloves ready because we're ready to go to war for the Timberwolves, man. But what'd you think from being inside Target Center? We were both there tonight, Andrew. That's why we're a little delayed here. But we were both in the building. What's your kind of vibe of the night? What'd you get from the energy of the game from the start? And then how did it really kind of change in the building?
Well, we were talking before the game started of like the worst thing for the Wolves is Cade not playing because this team has a tendency to not wake up. And that's kind of what we saw from Anthony Edwards, at least in the first quarter. Julius was a little sloppy on defense, but I mean, credit to the veterans on this team. Rudy and Mike kind of kept him in the game. Fight happens. You know, the Wolves bring it a little bit closer. I mean, it wasn't like they were leading at halftime or that they went on this huge run after the fight, but third quarter, Anthony Edwards comes in, decides the game is over and scores 20. I mean, I know there's like a lot of Michael Jordan comps and stuff like that gets thrown out there, but like one of the things that like Jordan, Kobe, Iverson, like people I watched growing up, you didn't talk to them. You didn't get them angry. You didn't give them a reason to try harder. And that fight today seemed to really spark it in Anthony Edwards. And I mean, midway through the third quarter, did you have any doubt that they were going to lose or that they were going to win?
Not after they kind of came back. The whole crowd got into it. Being in the building, I posted about it. I haven't seen anything like that. It's been a lot of years I've gone to games. I'll say playoffs, though, that is the atmosphere it was like. Now, if we're calling regular season, we take the playoffs out because we know how playoff crowds are. We know what they do. We know how rowdy they are. We know what they say. I would say that was comparable to a playoff crowd tonight, man. It changed everything in the building after the fight happened. First of all, in my section, it was dead silent, basically. It was normal crowd cheering, but it was like dead silent, before the fight. The fight happens. Every single person stood up in the building, and they didn't sit down in Target Center for that whole time. They were trying to figure out what to do, which was 12 minutes, 10 minutes, or something like that. Like everybody in the building was standing the entire time. They remained standing after that for a little bit, and it changed everything. Everybody in the building around me, you could hear them talking, vocal, people behind me. They're talking shit. We got girls talking shit. We got guys yelling. We got people in every section around yelling. All of a sudden, I'd never seen anything like it. It was like the whole Target Center vibe changed. The building came out to really, and then all of a sudden the booze. I saw the booze start flowing, man. I saw everyone around us starting like to start to drink, order beers, and just have fun. And it felt like it wasn't a Sunday night game, and we had to work tomorrow morning. It felt like this is a Friday night game or a Saturday night game. It was insane. It was just an insane environment to be a part of.
To your credit, I mean, the last time this many people got ejected from a game was in 2010 with the Nuggets Knicks. That's the one where Carmelo choked somebody out, and you know, there was some extracurriculars in that. But I mean, that's how rare this is. And you know, Finch talked about it post game of just this was a good sign of their mental toughness, right? Like he said that he was encouraged by the physicality that they, you know, second half started and they were punching first and kind of enforcing their will. Rudy was awesome with that tonight. I mean, from jump, Rudy was awesome. But, you know, they also didn't just roll over. They didn't whine about it. They lost Nas and Dante, 2 out of their top 7 guys, and they responded with it, which, you know, the Pistons, once everyone fell off and got ejected and there's no Cade, that team isn't. I mean, Stewart's a huge player for them. Sasser's a big player for them. Ron Holland gives them 20 good minutes of defense. Like, this is a good roster. It's an NBA roster. When you lose those 3 and Cade, it turns into a pretty bad team, and the Wolves dispelled them like you should dispel a bad team. Went on a run in the third, built a lead, ended up winning by 20. The one thing I did want to just touch on real quick before we get fans in the show or start answering some questions is just looking back to that 2010 brawl between the Nuggets and Knicks.
Yeah.
I think fans need to prepare themselves for some pretty hefty suspensions. This spilt over into the crowd, whether it was Dante's fault, which again, Finch spoke on. He thought that the Pistons really escalated this, that the physicality they came into the game with was just brewing for a fight, and that the Pistons were the ones that were really pushing this. But looking back to that Denver game, Melo got suspended for 15 games. J.R. Smith got 10. On the Knicks side, Nate Robinson got 10. Marty Collins got 6. Jared Jeffries got 4. I mean, this is going to be something where Dante might get 5, 6, 7, 10 games suspension. He might be done until the playoffs. Nas Reed, even though he didn't get into the crowd, they're going to have to set an example with this. This is one of those like stop time moments where it's like, oh man, there's like a little kid in the front row that got squashed. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Knox gets 2 or 3 games. Obviously, like, Isaiah Stewart's probably done for the year. I would guess Sasser's probably done, seeing how he hit like a WWE spear on Dante. But I think Wolves fans need to kind of prepare themselves that this could be like, we don't see Dante again until the playoffs, which if this sparks something where they go in and take care of Philadelphia, they go in and take care of Brooklyn, then hey, it is what it is. But I just think that's something that fans need to prepare themselves for, because right now the adrenaline's high. In a day or two when that news comes out, people are gonna feel a certain way.
So they face the Nuggets this Tuesday, so now they might be without players against the Nuggets, which would be, you know, the Wolves have obviously had the Nuggets number over the years, but now you're missing a key player, probably multiple players, like you said. And yeah, there's gonna be suspensions in something like this, which is unfortunate. It's a momentum changing thing for tonight, but it's gonna hurt the Wolves in the long run. Emotions got high, but hopefully it shows you that they're not afraid of anybody anymore. They're not afraid to back down. He's here. He makes his voice heard. He's a dog. He was in New York. He almost got in a fight in the playoffs last year against Miles Turner. I mean, he's going to always stand up. He's not going to back down. And that's what you need. You need toughness and grit in the playoffs. I
think the best tweet I saw tonight is the New York Knicks really needed Dante DiVincenzo. And that's kind of how we felt last year with Cat, right? Like they had the swagger, but they didn't have that just bleep hole that's going to start stuff and stand up for everybody. They got that now. So whether it is this season they fall short, I think learning what Dante is about and kind of how impactful he can be with his fists or with his shot, I think is important for this team. So like you said, though, they're coming into a stretch where they gotta win like all of these games if they want to keep up with teams. And losing Dante and Nas is very reminiscent of Kyle Anderson getting suspended after decking Gobert. Very reminiscent of Jaden breaking his hand. It's again, they got it taken care of tonight. The fire was impressive, but looking at a macro level, it does make me wonder of just like, oof, is this team gonna now have enough ammo? Which Jalen Clark stepped in for Dante, and I'd love to get your take on it. Jalen Clark was awesome, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was awesome tonight. He was bothering them all over the floor tonight defensively, like usual. He was guarding Azir Thompson for the Pistons a lot of the time, and he was getting up into him like in person, just so physical. So is Thompson though. They're both such physical, dominant players. And it was so cool to see them battle defensively against each other. But just to see Jalen gets right up and puts his hands all over him. The refs were letting him play at that point, kind of a lot, most of the game. Then all of a sudden they started calling fouls at some certain different points of the game, like inconsistently, just rapidly calling every foul, it felt like. So it was confusing from a reffing standpoint for, I think, us, for everybody, because it was inconsistent. I'm not sure what was going on with it. But yeah, Clark, he looks like he's played in the league for years. He looks like he's a 30-year-old who's been doing it for a long time. He looks so mature. He's ready to play. You can just tell Clark's going to come and he's going to have that moment in the playoffs where people are watching on TV and they're like, who is this guy and why isn't he on my team? Like, I need a guy like that on my team, whether it's a Celtics fan or an OKC fan, or people are going to be tuning in who don't even know who Jalen Clark is. And because that's how much of an impact, and you start to notice this kid doesn't make mistakes, looks like a veteran, and comes out there and you're like, have I missed this guy? Has he been playing this whole time? Like, who is he? That's how good Jalen Clark was tonight.
It's just crazy. And Mike, I got to ask him about it earlier this week in practice of just how rare this is. And Mike, I mean, didn't mix words about it. He literally was saying this doesn't happen. Players don't miss their entire rookie season and then come in midway through the season and act like they're a veteran. Mm-hmm. He's a guy that like probably is, I mean, if we didn't have Nikhil and Dante, he'd probably be getting 30 minutes on this team. Finch trusts him. He doesn't make mistakes. He always finds the right pass. When he does make a mistake, he just bodies someone defensively. He's also another guy that, like, come playoff time, he's going to draw technicals on people because, I mean, it must be frustrating. I was thinking about it with Devin Booker last game of just, you got Jaden McDaniels on you. When you get a switch, it's onto Anthony Edwards. And then those two come out and it's Jalen Clark and Nikhil. Like, this team's built to beat perimeter teams. And if Gobert brings what he brings tonight, I think they're one of the teams that could really potentially have a huge upset in the first round.
Gobert's been coming on of recent. People need to pay attention because over the last 3 games or so here, Gobert's been awesome. 19 points tonight, 25 rebounds, dominance. Like, that was the Utah Jazz Rudy Gobert that, all NBA every single year, defensive player of the year, getting those games, tons of games when he was with the Jazz that are like 15 games, 20 games, 20 points, maybe 17 rebounds. Gobert's been doing that, and he looks like he's kind of got everything back. I think Minnesota involved him really good early in the game too. He had the first 6 points in this game for Minnesota, all 6 points. And Minnesota had only scored 6 points in like the first 6 minutes of the game. So Gobert was really the only thing they had going. But I thought it was, if you get Gobert going, everything else flows. And you see it tonight. He feels included. He catches a lob pass. I thought Jalen Duren's too small to guard Rudy Gobert. They don't really have anybody else in this game. I mean, Jalen Duren's only 6'8", 6'9". He's kind of Naz Reid size, like height-wise, and Gobert's a true 7-footer. So I think it was a good matchup for Rudy Gobert. And then obviously when like we talked about in the ejections, huge for Minnesota when Isaiah Stewart goes out. I think that's the player, not the other two. I think Isaiah Stewart was the reason why Minnesota turned it around, because Jalen Duren, he gets in foul trouble because he can't physically match with Gobert. Yeah. And guess who comes in to back him up? Nobody, basically. I mean, they had Paul Reed coming in, but because Isaiah
and
Stewart
Paul Reed can't
there,
do that.
Exactly, but because Stewart wasn't there anymore, and Jalen Duren kept having to go sit on the bench because of foul trouble, Minnesota could do whatever they wanted to do with Rudy Gobert and their dominance down low. That's where the game turned. That's how Minnesota won this game, in my opinion. That's how they came back and they got into it. Yes, later they kind of took their souls, but you saw it there. And then what happens? Julius Randle starts driving into the paint uncontrollably, just nonstop and having his way. I mean, he looked like just an absolute bulldog in the second half, just pounding down on the Pistons, physically imposing them. They could not stop Randle. Ant was electric for that run where him and Randle changed the game as well. And then, of course, like there's Rudy Gobert, who's just fantastic. I thought Jaden McDaniels tonight didn't score a lot at all, 2 points, but towards the end of the in the fourth quarter, I would say, and towards the end of the third, Jaden, I felt his size too. I saw him hustling. I saw him going to get rebounds. He ended the game with 9 rebounds. But I remember a particular rebound in general where he jumped up, which was all pure effort, heart of the 50-50 ball, Andrew. And he jumps, gets the ball, and he falls to the ground. We saw that, and then it's a jump ball. Minnesota ended up winning that jump ball, but from Jaden's effort. Then they go down and they score. Those are the plays that winning teams make. Those are the 50-50 balls. Minnesota doesn't do a lot of games. When they're making those plays, and I'm watching that in person or on TV, I know we're winning because you could tell, you can see the body language in the players. They were all locked in later in the game. They heard me talk. They heard Malik Beasley talking, and the whole game, the whole vibe changed. Target center was chirping. I mean, it was awesome. It was awesome. I wish everyone could have been at the game tonight because it was special there, man.
I mean, Jaden, the fact that Jaden's bringing down 8 rebounds a game now when his career average is like 4 is insane. I never would have thought Jaden would be like a rebounding presence.
But he should at his height.
The other thing is just it opens up so much more. If he's able to box out, if he's able to do things like come playoff time, they're going to be able to run the Randle Jaden 4-5. If teams do start to pick on Gobert when he's in drop, they have those options. They have Nasri. They can go like super big with like Ant, Jaden, Nas, Randle, and Gobert. They just have more bullets in the chamber. Now that McDaniels can rebound. The other thing is, it's just insane how well his jump shot has like developed, especially like that weird little in the paint jump shot that I think he only shot 1 and missed tonight.
Yep.
He's giving you that reason of why, like Ant said, they have Kevin Durant, we have Jaden McDaniels. When we traded for Rudy Gobert, we didn't include Jaden McDaniels. There came out reports that the Wolves said Jaden was untouchable in the KD trades. Like every month that goes by, we're just seeing more and more of this kid that like is a really capable player. I don't know if he's the second best player on a championship team, but if Jaden is your 3rd or 4th guy, I mean, that's a really good team. The other thing is he's just so underrated as like a teammate. Like it's telling that the Wolves media staff does the like, who's the funniest on the team, and like 5 guys say Jaden. I mean, if you follow me on X, you see a lot of Jaden clips because he's the guy I like to talk to the most. Like, he's just a downright, like, good dude. And everyone on this team will go to bat to him. And that stuff means a lot, especially when you're in the heat of these playoff moments. The other guy I'd really like to kind of get your 2 cents on, because I know at the beginning of the season, you were not a very big Randle believer. And there was kind of a shift starting around the new year where Randle, whether it's buy-in, whether it's understanding his teammates, injury, whatever, really since the calendar flipped over, Randle's been awesome. Like he's on triple-double watch most of the nights. His like physicality and force is just something that no one else on the team can do other than Ant, to be honest. Just what have your thoughts been on Randle the last few games?
Randle obviously started the year and it was a mess. It was a mess to say the least. I mean, he's getting in fights with teammates. It looks, the body language was poor. We ripped on him for sure on our show. We ripped on him in tweets. I'm sure people have them saved in so they can say, I told you guys so at some point, which people love to do. But Julius Randle, all credit when all credit is due. He's completely turning his season around. He's been fantastic. He had the 13-0 stretch where he was unreal, where they won those 13 games straight. Minnesota looks, unreal with Julius Randle in the lineup. His assists gone up. Everything went up for Julius Randle. His turnovers went down, which was awesome. He was rebounding at a higher clip now. His scoring went up, and he just looked like he he fit. He finally became a team player that he bought in, right? So Julius Randle tonight, 26 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, another game. This stat line is becoming, it was the same last game if you go look it up, about the same stats. It's an all-around player. Those performances with that stat it's insane. Like that's an all NBA. Like those are all-star numbers. If he's putting those numbers up the whole season, he's on the all-star team in the West because you're involving all your teammates. You're getting assists every single night. You're scoring at it, and he's so aggressive. I think his defensive effort has been going up too. I see him trying a lot in the beginning of the year. I was against his defense. I thought he didn't try, and he was horrible in the defensive end. Getting subbed out, he looked like he threw a pity party in the beginning of the year when he was, maybe not closing a game, and Finch was deciding to run with Naz Reid or somebody. And now he's okay with it. He's been closing now because he's been so good, but he took that time to really analyze it, Andrew. And then, of course, being out for a while with the injury, it does a lot for a player. And I think Randall really got to see the team, man, and see what they do without him and where he can fit when he came back. And he started to want a lot more, it felt like, for his teammates. Not saying he didn't get along with them before, but I also think it's telling that he got over. Him and Gobert are really cool now. Everyone seems like they're cool in the locker room. So it's telling when guys can come together like that, like we saw Kyle Anderson before and Rudy Gobert, because that can form something. And guess what? The Wolves the next year, they went to the West Finals. And those things matter. And now you're having a chance to get the chemistry together, believe in each other, and you see the damage that Julius Randle and Anthony Edwards can do. When they formed tonight together, they were like an avalanche, and they could not stop them. The Pistons they couldn't handle it. They couldn't handle them.
I mean, Randall, when he plays, I just looked it up, 38 and 24. That's what the Wolves are. That's a 61.3% winning percentage. That's the 4 seed. I mean,
there you
go.
That's
the margin of error that this team has. 3 extra wins if Randall didn't get hurt. They're the 4 seed. I mean,
it's insane. It's insane. But that's how good these.
I was going to say
that's how good these players are, though. Yeah,
they are. I mean, that's how much they matter. I mean, that's
like Randall, Cat, star level players, or Jaylen Brown and the Celtics, or any of these players, even if they're fringe all stars or anything like that. Like, they mean so much in the NBA, and I think fans need to realize, even myself sometimes, is that's why you see when Cat left where the Wolves struggled for a little bit there. They don't just come around. They don't just grow on trees. Like we see Naz Reid, we see. Have Naz Reid is a perfect example. He has fantastic games where he'll just be on a heater for, multiple games straight, let's say 5 games, where he's scoring 20 points every single night. Then he has these games where he'll have 2 or 3 games where he's scoring 5 points, 4 points, and you're wondering where Naz Reid is. That's the difference between these other star players, right? Is the guys who can come in and even in their bad nights, they're still getting you 15 or 18 points. And that's the difference in that.
100%. I just wanted to, because I know we're wrapping up here soon.
Yep.
How are you feeling about the Wolves? Where do you think they're going to finish? Because they got 8 games left now. They're, until the Warriors games finish, they're tied with the Warriors for 6. I mean, nothing has really changed. The Wolves win 2 games and the Warriors win 2 games. The Nuggets win 2 games. The Rockets are on a 2-game winning streak. The Lakers are on a 1-game winning streak. Nothing's really changed in the standings, even though they win. I'd love to hear where you think they're going to finish.
I still have Minnesota finishing in the play-in tournament right now. As a play-in tournament team, I think it's just tough. Like you said, when the Wolves are winning, the other teams are winning. When the Wolves are losing, the other teams are losing. And unfortunately for Minnesota, they had their chances all year. I think they might have blown them. It just is what it is. So I think we finished the 7th or the 8th seed. I think the Clippers and the Warriors game is the last game of the season this year. That's the game to watch, I think, if you're a Timberwolves fan, because that's where I think Minnesota finds out their fate. I think it's going to go neck and neck down to the wire with the Clippers. And I think the Warriors, as weird as this sounds, we're all going to be cheering for the Golden State Warriors in that last game of the year, because I think we need them to beat LA, and then we would technically be the 7th seed, get that home court advantage, be the 7th seed, play the AC Clippers. I think it's going to come down to there. I would tell you this. I think Memphis has a chance to slip. If I was going to pick a team to slip over the Warriors or somebody in front of us, I think it's the Grizzlies, just because they just fired their coach. John Morant's not the happiest right now. Don't know what's going on with them. Maybe I'm wrong. But I think Minnesota, they played the Grizzlies one more time. So that's the reason I have Minnesota has the chance. If anybody's going to fall out, I could see Memphis falling out, and that's where I would hold my hope if I were a Wolves fan. Obviously, having the players that we're going to not have available for the game is going to hurt us. But if we can beat the Grizzlies, which Ant gets up for, we know that. We know the Wolves' history. They get up for the Grizzlies games. If we beat the Grizzlies and the Grizzlies kind of fall out here with all the coaching changes, with all the rumblings in the locker room in the front office right now, and maybe an unhappy John Moran who claims he hasn't been healthy all year. He came out and said that. I think, Andrew, Memphis is poised to fall. What do you think about that?
You are finally on my side, Evan. It's only taken a month for you to come around.
It took a coach firing.
It only took a month for you to come around. But Memphis, I mean, they're saying it's a hamstring strain, which soft tissue injuries suck. I mean, you don't know how long they're going to take. You can re-aggravate it. If he really has a hamstring strain, I mean, Jaren Jackson Jr. has been in and out unhealthy. Even when Ja is healthy, he's missing about a third of the games. I've been kind of on the Memphis is the team to watch to fall, especially with the Lakers now with Luka and LeBron getting really in rhythm. The Clippers have been awesome. I mean, they're just
amazing.
They play so well. Kawhi looks like old Kawhi. Norman Powell's great. James Harden's phenomenal.
Ben Simmons is working out for them.
I never thought Zubac would be like an impact player, but like I'm wrong. He's been great. I mean, we're not catching Houston. That ship has sailed. So now it's just how do we keep pace with a Clippers team that's white hot and a Golden State team that has Steph and Jimmy, which Steph and Jimmy can they'll win you games just off of sheer grit. I think the Warriors, if there's something you could look at of them falling, I mean, they are an older team now. I know they have Looney, Moses Moody's been good, but like GP2 is not GP2 of their championship. Steph Curry's been battling stuff the last half of the season, and Jimmy is Jimmy. He could score 30 points a game for the end of the season, or he could miss 6 games with a strained back. It's just, and if two teams fall, that's all the Wolves really need. It's just a matter of they got to beat Memphis when they play Memphis. They got to go out and beat Brooklyn twice in Philly, and they got to just close the season beating teams that Vegas is going to say they should beat.
And let's not forget the Grizzlies, not only with the coaching change, they lost Brandon Clark. He's done for the year. That's a major player for the Grizzlies. I'll add that as well. So you have all those things going on with the Grizzlies. Let's take a look real quick for those watching real quick. We're diving into here. I have the Memphis Grizzlies remaining schedule pulled up on my phone right here. We know the Timberwolves have a pretty decent schedule. They have the easiest remaining schedule in the NBA, which include the Memphis Grizzlies. So this is key because you can hop them. You can catch up to them. If you beat the Grizzlies, you have to win this game in order for this plan to work. But let's look at the Grizzlies. Let's ride the train.
You're fine, Travis.
We got the Grizzlies facing, Andrew, the Boston Celtics next. The Golden State Warriors, the following game. The Miami Heat, the feisty Miami Heat, who potentially could steal a game. You never know. They beat the Warriors the other day. You never know about the Heat. Detroit, who we saw tonight. Detroit, who's going to be fighting, and they're going to be playing all their guys. So just in those 4 games alone, you got Boston, Golden State, Miami, Detroit again. Then they played the Hornets. We'll scratch that game. Doesn't matter. Guess who they play next? Minnesota. Then they travel. They got to go to Denver and play the Nuggets, who are going to be playing just like Minnesota. End the year with Dallas. Dallas isn't playing for anything at the end of the year, but I mean, in their closing games again, Boston, Golden State, Miami, Minnesota, Denver. That's pretty tough, man. That's pretty tough.
I mean, their stretch is tough. I want to add into that Golden State. They play Memphis, LA, Denver, Houston, Phoenix, and the Clippers. That's 6 of their last 8.
Where do they play LA? I don't have the Grizzlies playing the Lakers.
Oh no, the Warriors. I'm saying the Warriors schedule.
Oh, you're talking about the Warriors schedule. Okay, yeah.
Grizzlies, tough. Warriors.
The Grizzlies schedule's tough. That's what I'm saying.
Like the Grizzlies.
But I don't think the Warriors fall. I just don't have them falling anymore.
I think those six teams or those 6 games against playoff teams, even if they go 3-3, and then they take care of the Spurs and they take care of the last one. That's 5-3. The Wolves just beat them by 1 game. They own the tie. I think the Warriors have the tiebreaker for the Wolves, but the Wolves are a half game back. So if they just outdo the Warriors by 1 game, they're the 6th seed. The Grizzlies, primed to fall, like you just said. All they have to do is outdo the Grizzlies by 2 games. They own the tiebreaker with the Grizzlies already. The Lakers, maybe a long shot that they take the Lakers 2.5 games behind, but Rockets, Warriors, Thunders, Mavericks, Thunder again, Rockets again. I mean, that's brutal for the Lakers. You just have to win 2.5 over the Lakers. They own the tiebreaker. The Wolves are going to have every opportunity to still get in as the 6th seed. It's just, can they not shoot themselves in the foot? Which we've talked about it. I mean, really, since we started this podcast after the All-Star break, is the Wolves just have this absolutely ridiculous ability to need to do things the hard way.
I think because of that reason, because we know the team that they are by now, it is this deep into the season. I don't believe they change right now. I believe they are still that team. And for that reason, I believe Memphis is the only reason or the only way the Timberwolves can get in at this remaining point, because I don't think the Warriors slip like that. I just don't. I think the Clippers are too good as well. They don't slip like that. Minnesota still has to face Denver and Milwaukee now coming up, and Memphis. Those are the 3 games to really watch. And then the other games they got are Brooklyn, 76ers, Brooklyn, and Utah. They're going to mess up in one of those games because that's who the Timberwolves are this year. And that right there is why I would be not optimistic on the Wolves, other than Memphis just going to an absolute free fall potentially. Minnesota just still handling it pretty well, but I just don't. It's hard to be like, are they going to win? Or I guess say, are they only going to lose 1 more game the rest of the season to get the 6th seed? And I'm like, I'm not with that. I think Minnesota has one. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 remaining games now. I think so. Yep. I would say out of the 7 remaining games, I mean, it's just there's 7 games, Andrew, against, and you're going to be missing Dante now and Naz Reid because of that. If they were here, maybe, but because they're missing that, especially that offensive ammo off the bench. I mean, unless Finch is going to show a willingness to play maybe Terrence Shannon Jr. a lot of minutes here coming up when he gets healthy. I mean, I'm just trying to figure it out. I don't know where they're going to get it. I just don't see it, man. I don't see it.
To your point too, there are prime trap games for the Wolves. The Bucks are without Dame. He's done for the year. They're 2 games behind the Pistons for the 4 seed. Or for the 5 seed. They don't really have, I mean, they're 4 games ahead of the play-in. Like, they could very easily rest Giannis in that game. Memphis, we just talked about Ja. If it's a Memphis game without Ja, does Ant wake up the same way? Does this team respond how they normally respond to Memphis? Or is it going to be Santi Aldama putting up 28 on us? Even the Nuggets. I mean, this team wakes up for the Nuggets. I'm most confident that that's probably the game they win, if there's a game that I would pencil in as a win. But still, we don't know what the Nuggets are going to do. They're also sitting in pretty good seeding position right now, where they are 1.5 games behind the Rockets and 1.5 games ahead of the Lakers. I mean, if anyone's banged up, they might look at the Wolves and just say, we might be able to beat them without this guy. Let's give Jamal Murray a rest. To the losing teams, I think it's going to be downright hard to lose those games, because what we're seeing now is the Cooper Flag sweepstakes is just in full motion, where, Colin Sexton, I think the other night at 16 in the first half, and then they benched him the entire second half for Utah. Philly's doing the same thing. I mean, Embiid's not going to play there. Paul George might get shut down in the near future. The Wolves would have to absolutely try to lose those games, which, I mean, everyone on those teams, the coaches are still going to try and win. The players that are playing are looking for their next contract, or a contract overseas, or a summer league invitation. Like, there's still plenty of motivation out there, but my fear is the Wolves go 5-2 and they drop it to like Memphis and Milwaukee. And they're just more of the same, where we're seeing them, Giannis sits in the Milwaukee game and then Kyle Kuzma goes off.
Yep.
We've seen that show twice. And that's where it's frustrating. If the Wolves do, if this is the turning point and they needed a literal fight to turn the corner, maybe that's the change. Now we're seeing, now's their chance. If they rattle off 6-1, 7-0, I think we get to change our expectations again on this team. But I'm with you. I think it's much more likely it's 5-2, 4-3.
Yeah. It's just one of those things. Again, it's like what 10, 12 times this year. Everybody, including me, Dane Moore podcasts, everybody. I mean, we've all said the same thing. This is the turning point. Minnesota's looking like they're changing. Everything's changing. And then they do the same thing. They do it every time. They prove us wrong, and they go out there and they lose against a team you could never phantom that they were going to lose. I mean, tonight they probably were on their way to a loss if it wasn't for the fight that broke out. I mean, what was Ant doing in the beginning? I ripped on him. His first half, 5 points, 1 point in the first quarter or something, or 3 points. Like, what are we doing there?
Downright. I mean,
he looked so timid, he was.
It's frustrating because the team all week at practices, we're talking about how they need to refine the edge. They need to be aggressive from the jump. They need to find the motivation to wake up for these games. Like, they know what the problem is. They have identified the problem, but then they still come into it. And Ant in the first half, -10, -22 net rating, 5 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists. Ant in the second half, +15, +38.6 net rating, 20 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists. It's a completely different player. And yes, you can look at that. Right. Like, yes, you can look at it and make semi excuses of Isaiah Stewart wasn't in the game anymore, so Ant was driving. But if you're watching the game, it is just a completely different human that shows up. And when you get that version of Ant, this team is not going to lose many games. This is probably a 55-win team if Ant is coming out like he did in the third quarter every single game. I think, to me, what's most telling about the team is that Ant is kind of the unquestioned leader. Mike has leaders. Everyone on the team has their role. And Finch talked about it at practice of just, this is something that, yes, Ant's been in the league for 5 years, but I believe he said it's really hard for a 23-year-old in any position to be the leader of a team. And I keep going back to it on Twitter and my articles on podcasts that I do. There is a reason that no one wins championships as the best player on a team until they're 27. Literally, Giannis is the only exception to that rule in the last 20 years. There's a reason. It just, when I was 23, I was busy flunking out of business school. You need to get that kind of mentality, that maturity to where you're not staying up for an extra game of COD. You're able to tell, your brother, no, you don't want to hang out with them. You're able to show up to a game and treat it, even if it's a Tuesday against Utah, like it's game 6 of the finals. And I don't think any NBA player treats every game like that. But if you could get Ant treating 75 games like that, this team their ceiling has no limits. And that might just take 3 years for him to get there. Historically, that's what it takes.
I think that's kind of where we're going with this. I think it's going to be tough in these remaining games. Again, Minnesota did this to themselves. They're to blame. Imagine if you beat, we said it before, we're going to say it again. If you beat the Pacers that one night, they didn't have anybody right now, and you have one more win on the year, you're not in this position. You're in a good position. You're in a driver position where even if you mess up again, you can still get it, right? Or if you beat the Milwaukee Bucks when they had all those players out, or we go back to the Raptors in the beginning of the year, or the Wizards, we can say it over and over again. That is what the team did to themselves. I have them in the plan. I do. I have them in the plan. We'll see kind of what they do. We'll go from there. I think if they get in, this team is interesting because I think they're a great team and they can compete against anybody when we see it. So I think the playoffs, in a weird way, they benefit the Timberwolves. If they can make it past the play-in, whether they lose the first time against the Clippers, they have to, win and get the A seed. I think they can go and battle OKC. I think in a 7-game series, this team has a shot against anybody, and that's what they've shown. Yes, they might slip up a game, go to sleep for a game, but that's okay. In the playoffs, you're in a 7-game series. And I think this team is built for the playoffs. The pace, they're not a fast-paced team. Everything slows down in the playoffs. They're a half-court offense team. That favors Minnesota. They're one of the most physical, imposing teams on other teams. That benefits Minnesota in the playoffs. And guess what happens in the playoffs, Andrew? Refs don't call. They let everything slide a lot more. In Minnesota, we saw how much it benefited them last year. So there's so many things to. I mean, Anthony Edwards is a playoff riser. Dante's a playoff riser. It's been proven. So we'll see. There's things to like. I think this team is. I think there's something there if they can get to the playoffs. But I have them as a play, and we're going to kind of wrap things up here. Appreciate everyone for joining. We've had a couple lives today, so people have joined both. Thank you so much for supporting us, the Daily Wolves. We hope you really enjoy the content we had. Shout out to everybody who came out to Headflyer Brewing the other day. That was sick. John Krasinski was there, Michael Grady. But yeah, Headflyer Brewing, that's the place to go if you want to watch Timberwolves games for the rest of the year. That's where I would go. Every Timberwolves game is shown there. On top of that, every time you go to Headflyer Brewing for the rest of the season, go talk to your bartender there. Go get a raffle ticket. You can get one every time you go, and you get another opportunity every Wolves game that they have to win a Nas Reed signed jersey at the end of the year. So every time you go, you just increase your odds. I mean, go get that jersey. It's from the team. It's from Nas Reed and John Krasinski. So it's super dope, man, that they're doing that. But yeah, it's awesome. Been awesome having everybody on. Andrew, till next time, we got the Nuggets coming up Tuesday. It's going to be a late one, guys, 9 p.m. Central out of Denver, Colorado. We'll catch you then. Until next time, guys, go Wolves.
Go Wolves.